not sad, but I wish I could call this sadness because I know how to deal with sadness. Sadness has a face, cries, and then it passes. Sadness shows up, does what it needs to do, and eventually you get to move on. But this, what I'm feeling right now, this is something else entirely. It is emptiness. Emptiness is a different kind of pain. The kind that doesn't announce itself loudly, the kind of pain that doesn't show up with tears and noise and drama. It just sits there quietly, heavily, like a fog that never fully lifts no matter how bright the day gets. This is waking up every morning and reaching for something that isn't there anymore, reaching for, reaching out of habit, reaching because for 6 years that was just what you did. I woke up and she was there, or she was just a text away, or she was the voice on the other end of the phone before I fully opened my eyes. And now that space is just air, just silence, just the brutal reminder that everything has changed and my body hasn't caught up yet with what my mind is slowly trying to accept. No, this is a hollow quiet that sits in your chest and doesn't leave. It's not loud. That's what people don't understand about this kind of pain. They expect me to be falling apart visibly. They expect red eyes and sleepless night written all over my face. And sometimes it is like that. But most of the times it's more quiet than that. Most of the time it's just this low, constant hum of absence that follows me through my day, through my morning routine, through my commute, through my lunch break when I pick up my phone to send her something funny and then put it back down. Through every single ordinary movement that used to feel ordinary because she was in it. 6 years, let that sit for a moment. 6 years of whole years of building something with somebody. 6 years of showing up for each other through the good days and the hard ones. 6 years of learning somebody, really learning them, not just their favorite color of or their favorite music, but the deep stuff, the way they get quiet when something is really bothering them, the face they make when they are trying not to laugh, the things that keep them up at night, and the dreams they talk about when the world is still and it's just the two of us, and everything feels safe enough to be completely honest. you know 6 years of inside jokes that nobody else would understand. 6 years of routines that became rituals without even me realizing them. Sunday morning, weekend drives, the way I would cook, she would cook, or we argue about what to watch, or fall asleep in the middle of the movie, and neither of us cared. 6 years of knowing exactly how she takes her coffee and what she needs to hear when she's overwhelmed, and how to read her mood before she even said a word. I feel empty because I lost 6 years of becoming someone's person, their go to, their safe place, and 6 years of them becoming mine. And just like that, it's gone. She's gone, and I didn't just lose a girlfriend. I want to be very clear about that because I think people underestimate what it means when a long relationship ends. I didn't just lose a friend, I didn't just lose a girlfriend, I lost my whole world. I lost the person I had built my entire present around and was building my entire future towards. I lost the realm of my daily life, the person I called first, the person I came home to, and the person who made an ordinary Tuesday feel like it meant something just by being in it. And what makes it worse, what really cuts deep in a way that I don't think I was prepared for, is that, we were 6 months away. 6 months, half a year, 180 days from the moment we had spent years working together on, planning for, dreaming about together. The wedding, it wasn't just a party, it wasn't just a date on a calendar, it was a symbol of everything we had built and everything we were promising each other we would continue to build. It was the moment where we are going to stand in front of everyone we love and say, this is it. This is the person. This is my forever. And I believed that with everything in me. Swear to God, I believed that. I wasn't walking into the future with doubt. I was walking into it with certainty, the kind of certainty that comes from years of choosing, from years of choosing somebody over and over again and having them choose you back. The venue was probably being finalized. The plans were taking shape. I could see the day in my head, the details, the feeling, the moment. I could feel it in a way you feel something that is real, close, and something that is inevitable. And now I'm standing in the ruins of everything that was supposed to be the beginning. And instead, it has become the end. And I don't know what to do with that. I genuinely don't know what to do with a future that you have to completely dismantle in your mind because the person you built it with is no longer in the picture. That is one of the most painful and disorienting experiences a human being can go through. And I don't think we'll talk about it enough. And that is what I'm going through. People keep asking me if I'm okay, and I tell them I'm fine because what else do you say? What's the honest answer to that question when you are standing in the middle of something big and this raw? How do you explain to somebody that you are not broken in a way they can see? There is no cast on my arm, no visible wound, no bandage or bruise or anything I could point to and say, there, that is where it hurts. It's just this deep, quiet void that follows me from room to room, from my house to office, that follows me into conversations where I laugh and seem present. And people probably think I'm doing well. And maybe in those moments I am, in those moments of laughter, but then I come home and the silence hits me again. And I remember I come home now and it hits me like a war every single time. There is no warmth, no smell of food from the kitchen, no voice calling from the other room asking how my day was. There is no presence, no life in the house, just cold, still air and the weight of everything that used to fill this space and no longer does. I have to build an atmosphere every single evening entirely by myself and entirely for myself. I turn on the lights because the darkness is too heavy. I turn on the laptop not because I want to watch anything, but because the silence is unbearable. I make noise just to fill the space that she used to feel naturally without even trying. And some nights I can't even do that. Some nights I just sit in the quiet and let it swallow me whole. And I don't know if that is healing or if that is just survival, but it's just what I've got right now. And the worst part isn't even the big things. I think that surprises people when I say it. They assume the hardest part is the dramatic moment. like the day it ended, the big conversations, the clearing out of things. And yes, those moments are hard. They are incredibly hard. But the big moments have adrenaline in them, they have intensity, they demand my presence and my attention. And they do that in a strange way. They carry me through themselves. It's the small things that undo me. The small things she used to do. The random Tuesday when something funny happens on my commute and she's the first person I want to text. And then I remember she's not there anymore. The habit of turning to say something to someone who isn't there. The weekends that used to have shape and warmth and a reason to get up. Now they are just long and open and quiet. Saturday mornings that used to feel like a gift now just feel like hours to get through. The future we talked about really talked about, planned out, put names and dates and details to. I have to now unmake all of that in my head. I have to take this entire vision of a life and carefully and painfully dismantle it pieces by pieces. The house we talked about, the children we had named in passing during late night conversations, the places we're going to travel, the way we talked about, growing old together like it was the most natural and obvious thing in the world. I have to take all of that and find somewhere to put it. And nobody tells me how to do that. Nobody gives me a guide. Nobody gives me a manual for how to grieve a future that never happened but felt more real than almost anything I could have ever touched. Nobody taught me that. I keep replaying moments. I think that's one of the cruelest things the mind does after a breakup. It becomes an archivist. It goes back through 6 years of memories and pull things out of the most unexpected times. It pulls a song comes on, and suddenly I'm somewhere we went together 2 years, 1 year ago, and I can feel it so clearly, it almost doesn't seem possible that it's over. A smell, a place, a phrase someone says in passing, and just like that, I'm back inside something that no longer exists, and I have to find my way out again. I keep wondering where it shifted, where the things that was solid started to crack. Was it a moment I can point to, or was it gradual? The way most things that end don't end all at once, but slowly, quietly, over time until one day the gap is too wide to cross. I wonder what I missed. I wonder what I could have done differently. I wonder if there was a version of this that had a different ending and what I would have had to do or say or be able to find it. And that's the thing nobody fully prepares me for when a long relationship ends. It doesn't just hurt, it kind of interrogates you, makes you question everything, who you were inside it, who you now are outside of it. Whether you showed up the way you should have, whether you loved well enough, or communicated clearly enough, or paid attention closely. And you go through all of that with no real answers, just questions that circle back on themselves and leave you more tired than you were before. Because when you spend 6 years with somebody, when you spend 6 fucking years with somebody, they don't just become part of your life. They become part of how you understand yourself. She wasn't just my girlfriend, she was my partner in the truest sense of that word. My constant, the person who knew me in the way that takes years of proximity and vulnerability and shared experience to build. The person who had seen me at my worst and choose to stay. The person who had watched me grow and being part of the reason I did. And losing that person doesn't just feel like losing her, it feels like losing a version of myself too. A self that only existed in relation to her, a self that I'm now having to figure out what to do with. And I'll be honest with you, I don't entirely know who I am right now outside of this, and that's terrifying. When you are in a relationship for that long, so much of your identity gets woven into the fabrics of being with someone. Your plans are shared plans, your weekends are shaped by another person, your future has another person's face in it, and when all of that suddenly gets removed, you are left standing there holding all these traits of yourself, and you are trying to figure out how to weave them back into something that makes sense, something that feels whole, something that feels like you, something that feels just like you, and not half of something that no longer exists. People will tell you that there is an opportunity. They mean well when they say that. They genuinely do. They genuinely do me well. They will say things like, maybe this is for the best, maybe there is something better coming. They say things like something have to leave for something to come. Something like maybe this is the universe redirecting you and repositioning you. And I don't want to dismiss any of that, because maybe one day I will look back, maybe one day I will turn back and I will get to understand something I can't understand right now. Maybe this pain, maybe this emptiness is pointing somewhere I can't yet see. Maybe it's redirecting me to something I can't see yet. But in the middle of it, in the thick of this, the thick of those words don't land the way they are intended. Because right now, I'm not looking for a silver lining. Right now, I'm not looking for happiness, for being whole. I'm just trying to get through the day. And that is something else I want to say, because I think it truly matters. There is no timeline for this. There is no set number of weeks after which one is supposed to feel better. There is no checkpoint you hit where you are, officially healed and ready to move on. Nothing like that exists. None. 6 years is a long time. 6 years is a whole chapter of my life. 6 years is not something I process in a month or two or six. And I think we put the enormous and unfair pressure on people who are grieving at the end of something significant to be over it faster than is humanly possible, to be strong, to be positive, to be bouncing back and growing up and moving forward with purpose and intention. I think we put a lot of pressure on that. And sometimes I try to do that. I do. Sometimes I try to fill my day with things that feel productive and meaningful. I do that most of the day. I try to show up for work and to see friends and maintain the shape of a functioning life. And some days you get to work, some days I kind of genuinely feel okay. Some days I laugh and it's real and I feel something other than empty. And I think maybe I'm getting there. And then some days I'm not. Some days the grief catches me completely off guard. And I'm suddenly right back in the middle of it with the same rawness it felt at the very beginning. And I've had to learn to make peace with that. I've learned to make peace, to stop treating the hard days as failure, to stop being frustrated with myself for not being further along. I've come to understand that healing is not linear. It does not move in a straight line from broken to whole. No, it moves in cycles. Sometimes it doubles back, sometimes it catches you in moments you thought you were safe. That's still healing. I've also had to be honest with myself about the loneliness, not just the loneliness or emptiness of missing her specifically, but the deeper emptiness that comes from suddenly being alone after years of not being alone. There is this particular quality to that kind of emptiness that is hard to articulate. It's not the loneliness of someone who has always been alone. It's the loneliness of someone who knows exactly what it feels like to not be and is now navigating the contrast of that emptiness every single day. Coming home to a quiet house after years of coming home to presence and to the warmth and another human being in the house. Eating alone when I'm used to share meals with her, making decisions that used to be made together now entirely by myself. Building a weekend without a framework. These are small things individually, but collectively, they all add up to an enormous shift in the texture of daily life. And some days that weight is manageable, and some days it's genuinely crushing. I've been trying to feel the silence. I talk to friends more than I used to. I've leaned into routines that gives my days structure because without the structure, the emptiness has too much room to expand. I try to reconnect with parts of myself that maybe got a little lost inside 6 years of being part of a pair. Interests I set aside, things I used to love that somehow drifted away, and there is something meaningful in that rediscovery. Yes, there is. It's not nothing. But I want to be honest. None of it fully replaces what was lost. Not yet. Not right now. I can't logic my way out of this kind of grief or distract myself past it permanently. At some point, I have to just sit with it and feel it and let it move through me at whatever pace it decides to move. And that is one of the hardest things to do in a world that is constantly encouraging you to be fine, even when you are not. To be busy, to be healed, to be onto the next thing. But I'm not onto the next thing. I'm still very much in the middle of this thing. And I think that is okay. I think being honest about where you are actually are, where you are actually are is more valuable than performing a recovery you haven't fully made yet. What I do know is this: what we had was real, 6 years of real. Whatever happened at the end, it doesn't cancel what existed before it. The love was real, the growth was real, the version of myself I became inside that relationship, the ways she made me better, the ways she challenged me, the ways she saw me and helped me see myself. All of that is real and it lives in me regardless of how the story ended. And I'm trying to hold on to that, not as a reason to stay stuck, but as a reminder that something meaningful happened here, that it mattered, that I mattered to her, and she mattered to me. And that is not nothing, even when it ends. I'm not angry. I want to make that clear. I'm not bitter. I don't have venom about this, but I have grief. And I think grief is actually the most honest form of love. It's what love look like when the person it was directed to is no longer there to receive it. So in a strange way, the depth of this emptiness is also the measure of what was there. And I can respect that even while I'm hurting. I'm not angry, I'm just empty, running on hollow, going through the motions of life that still looks the same from the outside but feels completely different on the inside. Walk, home, sleep repeatedly. And somewhere in that cycle, I'm supposed to find myself again. Somewhere in the middle of all of this ordinary living, I'm supposed to still rebuild. And I trust that I will. This is not permanent, even when it feels like it could be. I trust the human capacity to heal is bigger than any single loss, no matter how significant. But I'm not going to rush it. I'm not going to pretend to be somewhere I'm not. I'm not going to perform okay when I'm not okay. I'm going to feel this fully and honestly and without apology, because I think that is what it deserves. 6 years deserves to be grieved properly. A future that was this close deserved to be mourned. The person I was going to marry deserves more than me just struggling and moving on like it may almost become the rest of my life. So if you are reading this and you recognize something of yourself in these words, if you are carrying your own version of this quiet, heavy, empty, I just want you to know that you are not alone in it. Even when it feels like everybody else has their life together and you are the only one falling apart behind closed doors, you are not. So many of us are walking around with this. So many of us are holding grief that we haven't been given the language or the permission to properly express. You don't have to be over it. You don't have to be strong every day. You don't have to figure out the lesson or the purpose or the next chapter yet. You are allowed to be in the middle of this, and you are allowed to miss someone deeply and completely and without shame.